Assalamu alaikum, family. You're tuned into the Sajdah channel. I'm your host, Sajdah Wendy Muhammad, and we're going to be talking today about some stuff that I've been seeing in different comments and a trend that I see happening that I just want to warn you guys against. So be a friend, tell a friend, and we'll be right back on the other side of some commercials. Oh, people are commenting already. Sorry. Some commercials and a beautiful prayer. Okay, see you in a few.
O Allah, guide me among those whom Thou hast guided aright, and preserve me among those whom Thou hast preserved, and befriend me among those whom Thou hast befriended. Bless me in whatsoever Thou dost grant me, and deliver me from the evil of what Thou hast judged. Surely Thou judgest, and none can judge against Thee, and he whom Thou befriendest is not disgraced. Blessed art Thou, O Lord, and exalted be Thee above what they set up besides Thee. I bear witness, nothing deserves to be served besides Thee, and I bear witness that Muhammad is Thy servant and apostle. Amen.
I have received so many pleasures, so many very good to look at, whether you own them or not. It's a pleasure just to look at such presents. Why, I have never witnessed so many presents. I think I have to build me a house for presents. This shows what Allah can do for you and me if we believe in Him.
There is nothing that we could not accomplish in the name of God. You know what your problem is? You don't have even a worthy goal to strive after. I'm going to give you an assignment today. Here's an assignment. Is there something you want? Do you want something? Something that you want, but you have not been able to get it? Huh? Close your eyes. Do you see it? Whatever it is that you want, first envision it. You got the picture. Do you see it? All right, now the question is, you have to claim what you see. I claim this. I claim it. I believe with all my heart in the name of God that I'll bring what is in my imagination into reality. We're going to bring it back like it never was. I see in the dome the name Allah written in Arabic. But I can't just dream. I got to go to work. How do you bring it into concrete reality? First, without faith, you can't work the vision.
Assalamu alaikum, family. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for tuning in. Hope y'all can see me okay. I got one of my lights that's out, so I got a little shadow that's casting over me, but it's all right. I had my phone light out here, but it was too bright. You know how you have those podcast lights? I actually have one of those, but it's like so bright and it has to be in your face like this, that it like drives me crazy. I'll leave it there for a little while, see how long I can stand it, just so y'all can see me. And then after a while, you get in your brain what I look like, so you don't have to. You won't need the light. Welcome, assalamu alaikum. It looks fine, Brother Lamont. Okay, all right. So we don't need this because it's so irritating. Did you hear in that commercial that I played where the minister was talking about the mind and having a vision in your mind and then working the vision? And then he was sitting inside of what is now Mosque Mariam, the National Center, and he was looking up in the dome. And if you've ever been there, you can Google photos of Mosque Mariam, and there's these beautiful indigo and gold Arabic calligraphy, and he envisioned that. He said he saw Allah in the dome. I just think it's so powerful to watch how he sat there and he saw that. Now you can see everybody. You see Mother Tainetta, may Allah be pleased with her. You see student minister Rasul Muhammad, may Allah be pleased, and they're all looking like, oh, because he said, I see Allah written in the dome, and they walk over and looks up. Right, and looks up at him. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Clock Doc said it looks good though. Thank you. Yeah, so that I just think that's so powerful. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Sophia. I just realized that's you. Here's something I want to share, because I'm seeing this on social media a lot. And you all know that I post and do a lot of work in historic preservation, and some of it I document. I don't document every single thing I do. So you may see me at an event, but you won't see me post it afterwards, because people are so weird and competitive, especially when it comes to opportunity and money. I don't oftentimes telegraph what I'm doing, where I've been, what I'm working on. And that's just because of the nature of the things that I work on. It's not always stuff that's palatable to a lot of people, or even it's not play. It's things that are going to move us forward as a culture. And so from a historic preservation standpoint, though, I will post and I will make statements. You all know I make statements on the show. We chop it up. We put it out there. And there's these bots and people who mimic bots who always have something to say when you say anything about history as it relates to Black people. And they say things like, Black people are the only ones who dwell or wallow in historical stuff. And they really make it seem like we're really slow, not advanced, because we're all about history. Or if we even say anything about history, if you bring up slavery, if you bring up the origin of, what they call the Tartarian society, whatever it is you bring up, if you're Black and you bring it up, or you bring it up and you say, hey, look, Black people are the original people of the earth, and you start unraveling some of the historical lies and challenging people to unlearn things, then you get these trolls. And I call them trolls because when you click on their link, they have like one follower or one post or no post, but they're trolls or bots that will come on and talk smack about the fact that you're bringing up history, right? And I want to talk about that because we are in a culture and definitely a culture being created where our history doesn't matter, where our history has no value. And so then what you start to see is other Black people who say, I'm sick of all that history stuff. I don't want to hear about that. And I just want to say this to you and take you down a logical path. Obviously, I don't believe that. And that is definitely not the case, because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that history is best at rewarding its student. Okay. But here's the other piece of it. If you go see an attorney or a doctor, the first thing they're going to do is ask you the history. The doctor sits you in front of him and you fill out what is called a H&P, a history and physical. So they take the history so they understand your past. Did your parents have this disease? Questions that are historically relevant that will lay the groundwork in order for them to to diagnose and create a solution to your problem. An attorney's going to do the same thing. There's always a history. What happened in the past? What happened now? You put that together, then you do a physical examination. And then once you do the physical examination, you then begin to create your diagnosis. Once you create your diagnosis, then you start to what? Write the prescription. So the prescription may be medication. It may be some behavioral changes. It may be some dietary changes. You name it. But history is always needed so that you can understand how you got in this situation. Do not let these bots, these people on the internet, they got this trend now among young people. Well, I don't want to hear nothing about that. I'm sick of all that old stuff, and I'm tired of civil rights. I'm tired of history. Those of you who know better, and I'm not one for telling you to get into a debate or push back. I don't debate on religion and things like that. I believe what I believe, and you can believe what you believe, and we'll just see what works. Okay? Maybe they both work. I don't know, but this is where I'm inclined, what I'm inclined to believe in. But when it comes to this thing about history, especially going into Black History Month, kicked off with Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday on January 15th, I'm saying to you all, push the importance of history. Post it on your pages, repost it. I got tons of stuff on my Instagram and YouTube and Facebook. Repost it. Museums, preservation. Another thing they say is Black people are the only ones who worry about that. You don't say that to Jewish people. when they say never again, and I don't blame them. They should be saying never again, but nobody says that to them. I was talking to somebody from Turkey the other day, and I was asking him, he had on a necklace, and I said, that's really cool. And we were talking about jewelry, and he started going into his culture as to why he wore this particular necklace. I've been around people from all around the world, and history and cultural nuances and behaviors that they do, ceremonial things that they do, is all about recognizing and supporting history. But see, this trend where they don't want us to begin to unravel and honor our history is because we're going to find out that we've been lied to for a long time. And when you start unraveling all of these lies, it shakes the foundation that certain people stand on. But the only way we're going to get up out of our condition and improve our condition is if we start to change the narrative, if we start to change our respect levels, and if we start taking a look at what happened historically. Because that's going to help us understand how and why we're in the condition today. It will also help us to see our enemies. Because most times our enemies are just following patterns. Because if it worked before, usually they don't have to reinvent the wheel, because they've taken our respect for history away. So we don't know what was just done. And so you got a system that keeps doing the same thing to us over and over again. Meanwhile, we writing on pages saying crap like, history don't matter. I'm sick of hearing about slavery. I'm sick of hearing about civil rights. I'm sick of hearing about how our language and our culture and our names was taken from us. What we going to do now? Yes, about what we're going to do now, but you best believe that we are the only culture that actually does not make sure that we have ceremonial things embedded in what it is that we do that honor our culture. When we got off the plane in South Korea, and I was going to a hospital, a healthcare convention, we got off the plane. The first thing they honored us with was historical dance. They taught us about our culture, their culture, the minute we got off the plane. It was beautiful. They were dancing. They gave us tea. They started explaining. That was embedded in the tour, was their culture. So that by the time we got to the hospital and started to understand some of the healing techniques, the way they rehab the patients, we understood that there was a historical context as to why they did what they did. Same thing happened to us when I went with the Department of Commerce over to China in Beijing. They ordered historical tours so that we understood when we got to the hospital why they were doing what they were doing. And this happens all around the world. So to say to our people and start spreading on the internet that our culture doesn't matter, that our history doesn't matter, that our ancestors don't matter, is really saying in a low-key way, you don't matter. And then so many of us who think it's cute, who follow trends, who follow the internet, and who follow the mind of Yaqub, who does not want us to unravel his mind, because he's that big giant that's being toppled by the enemy of time, because his time is up, does not want us to know who he is and what his plans have been and what he has done, is making us think we don't got to care about history. So we don't support, we don't donate, even amongst people, those of us who know who the original man and woman is. We won't even consider history. We're walking around here just like those who are entrenched in Yakub's mind saying, oh, it doesn't matter. Those are old people. We got Willie Lynch going on steroids. Oh, that they're a little older. They may not know. Let me tell you something. And I've said this thousands and thousands of times, hundreds of times. That thousands is an exaggeration. Probably a couple hundred times. That when you begin to embrace things, people, places, things that don't look like you and that don't represent where you come from, you begin to expand the footprint of your mind. If I'm a young person and I'm taking counsel from an elder, I'm expanding my mind and I'm becoming more advanced than those in my demographic who are not respecting and taking counsel from elders. And the converse is true. Older people who don't incorporate younger energy into their lives are going to find themselves falling into the gloom, the doom, it's the end of the world type of mindset that is always heralded at us as we get older. So if you're older and you are seeking counsel and guidance from somebody younger, you have an advantage over people in your demographic, who are not doing that. So don't ever let anybody tell you that history doesn't matter. Tell your doctor that the next time you go to the doctor. Well, it don't matter how long my stomach been hurting. Why don't you say that? It don't matter how many times I fainted in the past. It don't matter that I grew up on a toxic waste dump and everybody in my family done died of cancer. Why don't you say that? Why don't you say that next time you see a lawyer who asks you, okay, what happened? It don't matter what happened, just fix it. You sound dumb as hell. And I'm being harsh on this because we got to stop playing with history. Some of us have bought into this society's mindset so badly that we're literally shortening our own lives. And here's the other thing. People who think like this, take a look at their families. Take a look at the things that are happening around them. They got unsuccessful families, drug addicts, people who not progressing, folks just living that hamster life, trying to make $1 out of 15 cents. Nobody's deep. Nobody's supporting. Nobody's helping. People who live these lives are very temporary minded, small minded people. Even if you call yourself religious, if you go to church every week, you go to mosque every week, you of all people should be saying, history matters. Our history is important and we better preserve it. Listen, my nephew and I watch these shows with my nephew. It's kind of like our bonding type of thing. They're not necessarily shows that I would pick for myself, but I watch them. A lot of them are the 50 Cent show. And it's so funny because the last series that he was trying to get me to look at, Force, I hadn't been watching. He had been texting me and I was like, So he called me, Auntie, you ain't paying attention. You're not looking at details. And I was like, okay, all right, nephew, I'm going to look at it. And he said something to me. We were texting back and forth this morning at 4 a.m. I don't know if he's watching. And he said something to me to the effect, well, no, whatever he said to me, we sparked this conversation going. And I said, you know what would be very powerful is if I could be on the writing team for 50 Cent and some of his new series to talk about how Black people can go from street culture into any other field that we want to go into, showing the power of our mind. See, other cultures, they get to be in the streets and then convert the money to politics and then convert the money to business. But we got to be squeaky clean or else they're going to kill us or we going to jail. But they get to transform all of this that they're doing into legit businesses. And then a couple generations from now, they're in politics or they're in a position of power. And then they say, erase the history. Don't talk about the history, because they don't want you to know that their father was a numbers runner. They don't want you to know that their mother ran a brothel. They don't want you to know that their father had a bunch of slaves and killed a bunch of people during Prohibition in order to get the money that they got, that they ended up putting into manufacturing and real estate. See, they don't want you to know that. But we don't get that opportunity. Normally for us, if we get into something illegal, it's one generation and probably a half a generation that we're going to make it. So I was talking to him and I said, wouldn't it be really cool to be on the writing team for one of these series that's already got an audience, and begin to write and change the face of the evolution of money and the fate of the evolution of money for Black people? Used to hear about Italians and they was the gangsters and they was the street people. Now they got businesses and stuff. You don't even hear about that anymore. You know, the Godfather and Scarface, all that used to be all the trend and unfortunate stereotypes that they had to live under. But right now, the way to do business, especially as a Black person, I always have clients say to me, like, you are so conservative. I'm extremely conservative. I'm going to make it squeaky clean and scrub it, because I don't want them to be able to come at you and put you in any position that's going to impact your family and your children. Let me see. Let me see what y'all saying in the comments. I see y'all blowing it up. I'm tired of this. I'm sick of these bots. I'm sick of these individuals. I'm sick of these Black people who think that they're going to be saying, there's no such thing as us benefiting from studying history. And they have these webinars and these seminars, and they sit on these panels and these stages, and they don't want you to do any kind of diagnosis. They don't want you to do any kind of history and physical. They don't want to talk about it. Let me tell you something about me. I'm not talking about this and preserving history just to be talking about it and just to be preserving history. I'm talking about it and preserving history so that it can be an antidote for the forward momentum and the ongoing concern of the success of us as a people and ultimately as a society. A society cannot survive by constantly keeping their foot on a group of people's neck. There is a such thing as karma. And I don't care how much you erase history and pretend that God don't exist. There's a God that is watching. There is a Messiah. There is a Christ. Now, you might not believe that it comes up out of our community, but if you really think about it, the amount of times that you done had your foot on our neck, the amount of time you've been killing us and hurting us, why wouldn't even just the spiritual resistance of that lifestyle produce a Messiah and or prophets and gods right up out of our community? It only makes sense if you study history. All right, so I see Stacy Brown says, Walaikum salam. Welcome, Stacy. Welcome, welcome. I see my girl, Regional Sky Girls in the house. Make some comments. So by the time I get to that, I want to know what y'all feeling about this. What are y'all seeing? Okay. She says, greetings all. I pray that everyone is in the best of health and spirits. To the best of my knowledge, I am. We are sending each and every person watching here good health, good spirits. I pray that your families are prosperous, that you are powerful, that you are loved. All right, let's see who we got. I see you, Brother Lamont says, Walaikum salam. Good morning and happy Saturday, everyone. Clock Doc is in the house. She says, Assalamu alaikum. That's Dr. Safiya Shabazz. Mom's in the house. She says, happy Saturday. And thank you all for the show yesterday and wishing her a happy birthday. anniversary. Regional Sky Girl says, I'm starting to think that there are more bots on social media than actual people. You know what? I agree with that, because when they make those weird comments, if you click on the icon that's supposed to be the person, it'll say that they have 0 followers or they're not real, or they'll say the same thing over and over again. I have some bots that, depending on what subject I put, they'll say, this is great content. Thank you for posting, or something strange like that. They'll say the same thing over and over again. Sister Denise is in the house. She says, Sajdah Wendy Muhammad, wa alaikum salam. Thank you so much, Sister Denise, for being here. I see you, Annie Wright says, ASA, my family. Yes, yes, and yes. What else we got? Yeah, Annie Wright says that's exactly what the Holy Quran teaches. Yeah, that I know that's what the Holy Quran teaches. I know that a lot of us are not rooted in the Holy Quran, but we got to understand it from a practical level. Like I said, you don't believe in history, you don't like history, you don't think it matters, tell your doctor to stop asking you history. Tell your lawyer not to ask you no history. Why you think you got to have a resume when you get ready to go get a job? Because they want to know your history. History is best at rewarding its teacher. I see Young Khan Nadan in the house. He says, teach, welcome, welcome, brother Young Khan Nadan. Yeah, we need to do the same. We need to become very ceremonial when people come to your home to visit you. If you got people that teach them about your history. I can't think of any country that I've gone to, whether it's in South America. I was sitting here earlier as we were starting the show, trying to think of one that when you come there in an official capacity, whether it's, say, it's, you know, lots, even if you go there on vacation, but especially if you come in an official capacity, they're going to teach you about their history before you get started with anything. But you got these bots on here talking about Black people are the only people that dwell on history. That's so that we will not begin to unravel Yaqub's mind. But guess what? It's already unraveling. The fall of America is the unraveling of Yaqub's mind and the establishment of a new mindset. They're trying to cushion it. They're trying to save themselves. They're trying to do whatever they can. And if getting you and I to erase our history and to not care about our history and not realize, you know, there's a big thing now. When you start passing by, like I'm really into buildings and architecture and art symbolism is really important to me, which is why we got the Windows to the World project coming up at Sajdah House that you're going to learn about soon. But I'm really big into that. And when I look at these buildings, when I became a historic preservationist and I started to really dig deeper, and I've always believed this, I said, this stuff was not built in the late 1800s. For one, you can't tell me that these people who only had horses and buggies built these massive structures, or folks who was living in tents built these massive structures. A lot of that history is a lie. And then what they do is they take multifaceted history and create one lie. So when you start chasing down the one lie, your mathematics gets off because there's multifacets, or there might have been many people, for example, here in the Americas. There may have been some people living in tents, but there's also some people who was living in these buildings that y'all took over in the late 1800s. Somebody built these energy centers. Somebody built these healing centers. Somebody was harnessing history. You want to tell, what's his name at Tesla, that we weren't harnessing history? Because if you study Nikola Tesla, he had tapped into the ancient Black original technology, that was building buildings or building structures, pyramids and mounds that lined up with longitudinal and latitudinal and ley lines. So they created certain types of energy. It's why you can live in certain homes or be in certain areas in particular cities and have a different type of energy. What they did with us is they kicked us out of these homes and buildings that are former energy centers, where you see the copper domes at the top, you see the stained glass windows, you see the symbolic architecture on the side, you see the history written on the outside of it. They kicked us out of that, moved us out into the suburbs, so we're living in boxes, and then took our history from us, so we don't even know how to harness energy. A lot of these big buildings, you know, what we call a fireplace was never used. They had copper and mercury inside of there because they were harnessing energy, heat sources, light sources. These folks in the late 1800s didn't build that. That stuff was already here. When Abu Bakr gave up his throne in Mali under Mansa Musa, because he said he wanted to travel, I'm going to use this language for lack of a better one, to the Americas per se. How did he even know that there was people over here? Were they communicating with each other telepathically? If Christopher Columbus discovered America, and where's my Ivan Van Sertima book is over there, and you don't realize that they came before Columbus, but if you really think that they came here when they were hired by the Europeans to come and explore behind these original men and women who had already discovered this territory, who had already conquered this territory, who had already built buildings in this territory, who had already traveled around the world creating architecture that is almost identical from Rome to San Francisco. Who did that? You didn't do that on your horse and buggy. You didn't do that when you just got over here barely on the boat and enslaved a few people, and not a few people, but enslaved some people and was running around here burning crosses in folks' yard. Did you trying to tell us that you then rose up just 20, 30 years later after the emancipation and built these gigantuan buildings? No, you conquered that stuff. You took over it. And if you watch any of these historical series, you see how they just go beat somebody up and move in their house. This is why they created the police department, to protect real estate, because they knew they had been stealing real estate. They knew they had stole some houses and ran up in some what became cathedrals, and ran up in some of these big spaces and made schools and colleges. So they said, man, we better protect this so don't nobody come and do the same thing to us that we did to other people. I know y'all think the police department is supposed to solve your mental illnesses and respond to all this stuff, but it's really designed to protect property. I'm sorry, I was reading the comments. Okay, absolutely. You're absolutely right. And we should do the same. That's Annie Wright saying that. 6,600 years of continuous lies. Yeah. Some of this architecture, some of these mounds, some of these things that we see in some of these cities. Oh, and here's the other thing I realized too. Along certain parts of let's just take America, for example. Along certain waterways, there was energy. There still is. The Great Lakes, the Mississippi River. So you have these ancient people that established cities or metropolitan cities, centers in those areas. So when you go to St. Louis, you see all kind of ancient architecture. When you come to Chicago, You see all kind of ancient architecture. And shout out to Chicago, because Chicago's an architectural mecca. We have all kind of different architecture here. You can just spend the day driving around looking at the different architecture. But the people who did conquer and move in the buildings over here have done a great job at preserving. Now, they drove the highway system right through a whole bunch of historic stuff. So the Dan Ryan just uprooted a whole bunch of history. But if I had to say, compared to many other cities, Chicago has done probably the best job at preserving and repurposing historical spaces, like Navy Pier. Navy Pier was not built to be an amusement park. It literally was a training space for the Navy. It was like a military outpost. So along these waterways and in certain areas, they were lining up powerful buildings with the copper and the mercury and the ether at the top. And they were structured in a certain way to capture energy, because they knew the longitudinal and the latitudinal energy centers. And they said, we're going to line this up with the pyramids in Egypt. We're going to line Chicago up with Chichen Itza, Mexico. And we're going to have pyramids down there. We're going to have pyramids and mounds here in Indiana and along Lake Michigan. We're going to build structures so that when people go into them, there are healing centers. So the concept with the travelers were that as long as they could get to a particular building, there was light and color therapy in the building. You see these round, ornamental, like what we call stained glass windows, if you will, that bring light in a certain color combination that changes your cellular structure. These people didn't build this in the late 1800s. It was the major business people, the Rockefellers, the DuPonts, that were able to take over and could afford to move into these buildings and then develop them later into, most of them are now cathedrals and churches and schools. Okay. Any Rice says fire is needed because we are asleep and very slow to move, especially those of us in the business world, because we think as long as I'm getting money, I think I made my point. I think y'all get it. But don't let these bots just sit there, either delete them or respond. Young Khan Nagan said, of all our studies, history is best qualified to reward our research. Thank you so much for correcting me on that. Thank you, Young Khan Nadan. That's a quote from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Of all studies, history is best qualified to reward our research. He said it. Enough said right there. Thank you. Happy Savior's Day and happy holy month of Ramadan. Oh yeah, I'm so excited for this Ramadan. I've been talking about it and getting ready for it. Gotta get my bean soup together. Demay X says ASA, walaikum salam. Dress code says walaikum salam. Any Right says Mother Tynetta used to teach on the significance of light, color, and music. Yes, she did. That's a whole another subject. But when you see these businesses of these buildings, this architecture, there's an energy source in brick, which is why on the former home of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, we were so careful with the brick, so careful with the grout, because there's energy in brick. And so they use a combination of brick. You'll see them use limestone, which is a crystal, which Mother also taught us about. Limestone is a crystal. They would put the crystal and the copper as a combination, because when you combine crystal and copper, you get a certain type of energy. They use colors because when you would use indigo with copper, it enhances intuition. Some of the ether and mercury towers with the copper created heat sources. They had massive doorways. Somebody said, well, it's because there were white giants, like the Jolly Green Giant. Somebody actually put this on my Instagram, a comment. I said, first of all, if you go in any of these older homes, the people were much smaller than us. We real big compared to them. Okay. Most of us are bariatric, what they call bariatric. So no, because if they were white giants, they would have told us. They wouldn't be hiding it. I'm 99% sure that most of these buildings, if not all of them, that look ancient, that been here for probably close to 1,000 years, maybe even, were built by Black people. Because if they were not built by Black people, they would have told us. If it was a white man that built it, they would have said, oh, there were these white giants. We would know about it. But a lot of the doorways in some of these big, in these ancient buildings, just start traveling and looking at your ancient architecture. Pay attention to buildings. Sometimes you'll see big archways. A lot of that is, and likely if you measure it, it probably ties in with the golden rule, because there's a way that they're bringing energy in here. With the size of the opening into the building, the number of openings. Many of them, if you look, you'll see the concrete is covering an opening or a window or another door, which means that it probably originally was taller than what it looks like now, because especially in Chicago, a lot of the ground has been built up to handle the navigation system that's underneath it, so that Lake Michigan doesn't return to its original shoreline, which is really somewhere near Lake Park. Even with the home of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, we dug the basement down by 18 inches and the house is on sand. So there's a limestone foundation underneath the sand. There's actually two foundations. There's limestone, then there's sand about 9 feet, and then another set of limestone. And we dug it down. You can see it. I have pictures of it. You'll see that in some of the displays when you come to the house. So they want to make sure that the sewer system underneath, so they had to build up the ground probably anywhere from 6 to 10 feet. So you got these buildings sitting here, for example. The building might be sitting there, and this might have been the original foundation, but they had to build it up to here because this is the sewer system. So from here up is all you see. Sometimes you'll see one basement, but if you went into a lot of these places, there's like sub-basements. All right. Okay. Any Right said, you're done and doing a beautiful job with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad House, my sister. Praise be to Allah. It is such an honor for them to tap me and come get me off of whatever plan I thought I had and say, nope, come over here and do this, means the world to me. And I am so grateful. The house has so much energy. The work around the house has so much energy. Look, that house don't play with people. Let me tell you, it do not play. And it blesses. Let me tell you the power in it. That house blesses any and everybody that does anything or helps it in its restoration or renovation. You don't believe me? Come help. You don't believe me? Come buy a coin. Ask Young Conda Don. He's in here. He got a bunch of coins because he was helping at one point and his reward was coins. So Young Conda Don, you're going to have a lot of memberships. We're finishing up the database. We got another development meeting next week, but I'm working on a system where you're going to go in and you'll be able to register this coin as a membership. I don't know if you're going to be selling coins and memberships. I don't know what you're going to do. Tell me in the chat how many coins you got. I don't know what you're going to do, but you can do what you want to do, because you can sell these because they're going to run out. There's at a certain point, even if you hold on to them, there's only so much copper from the original house. And so anything else that we do more than likely will not be minted. We may do some other coins out of other materials, but it won't be from the house. That's going to run out. That's fine. This is finite. All right. Young Kanagan said, yeah, he got 3 coins and he sold 30. So you got 3 memberships, and you'll be able to go in and put your name in and your membership coin, your coin number, your unique number on the back here, which becomes your membership number. And then we're going to attach all kind of benefits to that membership. One benefit is that you get free access for life. So this becomes a lifetime membership. There'll be discounts to events. There'll be discounts to other businesses that are connected. There'll be exclusive programming that you'll be able to be a part of. So I would say this is going to be worth it. Okay. It's a lifetime membership, and we're going to be announcing more about it soon, but you're going to want, I'm hoping that by Savior's Day, we'll have the database done and you'll be able to come to our booth at Savior's Day and just register your commemorative Elijah coin or purchase a coin. Okay. We're not going to have a lot at the booth. We're going to have information. It's going to tell you a lot about it, but the main thing is going to be letting you see our presence, letting you know where we are in this, what is this, 8-year sojourn. And the fact that this year we are starting our programming, inshallah, and more powerful things to come. All right. Okay. So family, I'm going to get out of here. If you all don't have any more questions, don't let these bots and these people teach you or tell you that history doesn't matter. We should be all over the place talking about Black history, talking about our history, our own personal history, your story. I got some notebooks that I'm going to start sending you all when you make a donation or you support. When you get one of these coins, I'm going to get you a notebook so you can start writing. I know writing is old school, but see, writing does something cognitively to your brain. You're going to start writing your history and documenting your history. Many of you have children. How powerful would it be if you had, I would love to have a notebook from my grandmother when she got on that train and participated in the Great Migration and went from Louisiana to Omaha, Nebraska. I would give anything to have a notebook. I want to know what she was thinking. I want to know what she experienced. I want to know who she saw. I want to know who she was with. I want to know how she was feeling. I want to know the mindset. I want to know what led to that. What was she reading? Did she read the Chicago Defender on there? Did she have a book? What was she doing during that whole train ride? That's a long train ride. I would love to have a notebook that says that. So journal. One of my aunties in my mind is Annie Malone. And Annie Malone didn't have any children, but boy, would I love to have some writings from Annie Malone. That's my girl. Annie Malone, I would love that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Brother Damon, Brother Young Khan the Don said you are walking history yourself. You know what, Brother Damon? And I know you're going to probably say this is crazy. It hit me about 3 days ago like a ton of bricks that was the case. I literally was thanking Allah for ordering my steps, for disrupting what I thought was a life plan that I had already built up, already put together, already saved up, what I was going to do. He busted that up. And I literally felt like, I kind of feel like you came and got me. It was like, come on over here. And I'm so grateful for that. I'm not saying that in a flexing or braggadocious kind of way, but I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful to be able to share with you all that aspect of my life, because you too, Brother Damon, and all of us are walking history. Okay. Last comment, Annie Rice says, I still write, especially when I'm listening to the Theology of Time lectures and the time and what must be done by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. You know what? I was going through the 81, 82, and 83 Savior's Day addresses. I filled up a whole notebook. I just kept stopping it. Like, I just want to write this down. So writing is therapeutic. Get a journal and start writing about your sojourn. So I'm writing a new book actually now myself. I can't wait for you all to see it. I like my books to be multi-purpose. So just like this book is talking about business, but it's also talking about unity. It's talking about separation. It's talking about self-governance. It's talking about love. It's talking about doing for self. And so the next book it is The Making of Sajdah House, but it's a multi-purpose book. And so we're working through that now. All right. May Allah bless each and every one of you. Thank you, and thank you. Before we go, let's just take a minute. And I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to say some things to yourself that you may not always say to yourself. So take a deep breath and close your eyes. And don't y'all get spooky because we're talking about these affirmations. I'm sorry, open your eyes for a minute. Let me say this. Christians and Muslims, yes, we have prescribed prayers. We also have a prescription that's been given to us as moments of stillness. We also have a prescription that's been given to us that was detailed in the self-improvement study guides that teaches us about the conversations that we have with ourselves and the voice within. So let's stop being so spooky when somebody tells you to do an audit of the conversations you're having with yourself. We talked about writing. Write a note to yourself. If you got something you're going through, let's say you got money problems right now, get you a notebook. This is a new one I just bought, and it's leather. It's so cool. Get you a notebook and write a letter to your money. Tell it how you're sorry for mistreating it. You can assign it a gender. Write a letter to your money. What you've been through, y'all rocky relationship, how it's going to get better, what you're going to do to make sure it's better. Write a letter to your health. Same concept. Write a letter to the little girl or the little boy in you. This is not spooky. This is about reprogramming yourself. So we got 1 minute left. Close your eyes and repeat after me. I love how beautiful I am. I love how powerful I am. I love how beloved I am by God. I love how trendsetting I am. I love how smart I am. I love how far I've come. I love how successful I am. Thank you, Allah. Thank you, God. Whatever name you use, thank you, Jehovah. Thank you for making me successful. All right, family, with that, write those letters to those important things in your life. Write a letter to your faith. Write a letter to your religion. Write a letter to Allah. Write a letter to yourself. But let's begin this healing process and let's stop dissing history, because when we diss history in the culture, we're dissing the history of ourselves. And when we diss our own history, it's literally impossible for us to heal. All right, family. May Allah bless you, sending you good energy, wishing each and every one of you more love, more goodness, more success, more connections, more relationships than you've ever experienced or imagined. All right. And get your commemorative Elijah coin. I'm telling you, you don't want to miss it. And if you can't, if you already got the coin and you say, hey, I just want to support, then go to ElijahMuhammadHouse.com, SajdahHouse.com. It all points to the same thing. And it'll show you how to donate. Okay. Support the movement, support what we're doing here, because I guarantee you it is going to be designed to help you benefit. And if you don't have the book, go to ArtandScienceofBusinesscom and get your copy today. Let's start studying. All right. I see one more comment popped up. I'm going to take this last one. Oh, wa alaikum salam. Thank you so much. Sister Betty says yes, 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 and yes. May Allah bless each and every one of you. Assalamu alaikum.